Hello and welcome to Naifa Live. I'm your host, Zach Hewells. Today we have a fantastic program with Austin Hatch, but first we're going to kick things off properly with our Naifa volunteer out of Tennessee, John D. Richardson, with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks so much, John. And now we're going to move over to Naifa CEO Kevin Mayu for some Naifa announcements.
Hello, Naifa Nation. It's hard to believe it's already September. Summer's coming to an end and we're about to get into our fall program season for Naifa. But also during this month, we reflect back upon our Naifa members that have served in the United States military. And we want to thank them for their tremendous service. This marks the 20th anniversary of 9/11 and also our very recent withdrawal from Afghanistan. We want to salute all of our Naifa members who have given of themselves to help protect our country and the liberties that we all enjoy. Part of that also means Naifa members look after each other. And recently we've had storms again, like with Hurricane Ida that hit the Gulf Coast and went through Mississippi and Louisiana. Our executive committee has reactivated the Naifa Disaster Relief Fund, also known as the Naifa Family Response Fund, where Naifa members can contribute money to those of our members that have been negatively impacted by these storms. If you'd like more information, whether you'd like to apply or whether you'd like to donate and help out our fellow members, please go to members.naifa.org/fund. Also, last month we had our tremendous Performance Plus Purpose Conference. For those of you that weren't able to attend, the event was amazing and you missed out, but you didn't totally miss out because you could take advantage of our archive version of P+P that's available right now online. So if you want to, please check it out. It was a great program. And I'm excited to say that we're going to be live in person again in 2022 as we do P+P out of the Arizona Biltmore. So stay tuned for more information about our in-person event next summer. Last week, our board and our staff spent some time together really looking at how we're going to continue to advance the Naifa 2025 strategic plan in 2022. And so we spent time developing out our first draft of our business implementation plan for the new year. Suffice it to say, there's a ton going on, and there's going to be a ton going on next year as we continue to move towards enhancing our brand, growing our membership, and growing an exceptional membership experience for every Naifa member from coast to coast. By the way, we do new member orientation for Naifa members every Monday at 3 p.m., but it's not just limited to our new members. If you'd like to get a current preview or view of what we offer as all of our programs at Naifa, every single Naifa member can sign up if you'd like to, Mondays, 3 p.m. Eastern, and go through our orientation class. If you're interested, sign up at members.naifa.org/orientation. And again, part of the Naifa experience is also giving our members a chance to give back and contribute and to volunteer. We need more of you to help build a stronger Naifa nation. If you're interested in volunteering, whether that be at a local chapter, a state chapter, on the national level, or even helping out with some of our smaller micro volunteerism opportunities, you can check those out at members.naifa.org and then go to the volunteer tab and see the variety of opportunities we've got for all people to help out. September is also Life Insurance Awareness Month, #LIAM21. As you all know, Life Insurance Awareness Month is sponsored by our good friends and partners at Life Happens. In fact, Naifa is a strong contributor to Life Happens. And with that, all Naifa members can get a discount on the Life Happens products, such as Life Happens Pro. If you'd like to find out more information about Liam, Life Happens, and the opportunities available for you as a Naifa member with Life Happens, please check out members.naifa.org/lifehappens. And as we enter the fall, we're also on our fall membership drive. There are more than 300,000 advisors out there in our country, and only a fraction of them are members of our professional association. Naifa sits back and represents people from coast to coast, and as more and more public policy issues are coming up at the federal and state level, we need more people to help us with that fight. Taxation needs representation. Every advisor should join. So if you can, reach out to your friends and colleagues that are advisors. If they're not members of Naifa, please encourage them to join, to get involved, to enrich themselves, but to also help us carry the proper message to public policymakers at the state and federal level from coast to coast. We are also this month launching our new Future Leaders program, which is reaching out to college students on more than 24 colleges and universities across this country. This program is run by our YATs, who will be teaching virtual classes and having those available to introduce college students to the great things that exist in this profession and how this can be a meaningful way to live life, to give back, and make a good living as well. If you'd like to have your college or university included, please email marketing@naifa.org. Also look for a variety of rivalry events as we enter the college football season, as we try to make this fun, and as we try to, again, encourage the next generation of advisors to step up, to join the profession, and then also join NAIFA. It's now my pleasure to introduce Jack Curtis, a great NAIFA member from Tupelo, Mississippi, and he's the former chair of NAIFA's Leadership and Life Institute Subcommittee. Jack will be leading our conversation today with Austin Hatch. Jack?
Thank you, Kevin. Oliver Wendell Holmes once said, "What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us." Austin, I know our audience today wants to hear your story, find out what is inside of you. And so I'm going to ask you today to start out by just sharing an overview of your story with our audience.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. It is an honor and a privilege to be here before you all today. I trust everybody's doing well and staying healthy. Yeah, so my story is tragic, but my story, it could be defined two ways: tragedy and triumph, I believe. So, in 2003, my family and I, we were flying home from my grandparents' house in northern Michigan to our home in Fort Wayne, Indiana, where I'm from. And as we were preparing to land, tragically, the airplane crashed and burst into flames and tragically took the lives of my mom, Julie, who was 38 at the time, my dad's high school sweetheart, my older sister, Lindsay, who was 11 at the time, and little brother Ian, who was only 5. An incomprehensible loss, but my dad and I found a way to press on and move forward in the midst of that. I don't know how my dad did it. I'm married now. He lost his wife of 18 years at the point my mom passed away. It was after they'd been married 18 years. And so I don't know how he did it, but I think he did it for me. And so he, found a way to keep moving forward in the midst of that. And I was remarried a few years later to a lovely woman named Kimberly, who had 3 kids of her own. And we had a great blended family, restored some normalcy in my life, and things not the same, obviously, but things were, life was normal again, relatively speaking. And we were flying to northern Michigan on June 24th, 2011, 9 days after I accomplished my lifelong dream of earning a scholarship to play basketball for Coach B at the University of Michigan. So 9 days later, we were flying to my grandparents' place in northern Michigan, and the airplane tragically crashed again and took the lives of my dad and second mom, and nearly killed me as well. I was in a coma for 2 months and had to learn how to walk and talk and basically how to live life again. But I was blessed to come out of that coma, and I had one of the worst brain injuries that they've ever seen that came out of a coma. So by the grace of God, I survived. But my goal was to find a way to thrive in the midst of it, and been blessed to be in a position to share my story and message about grit and thriving in the midst of adversity. So I'm looking forward to sharing it with you all today.
Thank you, Austin, for that overview. Your story is definitely one of a private victory first and foremost over tragedy. I mean, you were literally forced to start over, not only from the outside, working on the outside of your body, a coma for 2 months, brain trauma, punctured leg, broken collarbones, fractured ribs. And I know that you had people that helped you through that. But there's also the part that you had to start over on the inside. You wake up from a coma and this has happened to you. My question would be, you had people that were helping you, but you had to help yourself. Where did that emotional anchor, that resolve, that character, that desire to go forward, where did that come from?
I think it came from competing against myself my whole life, from sports, from school, from everything else. Just learning how to compete and just try to be the best that I could be. Like I didn't go to go to school and just try to cruise by and be fine with getting C's and just passing. My dad was a doctor, and school was always very important in our household. And A was the standard. That was the standard. That wasn't the goal. That was the standard. And so I think just setting that standard for ourselves in anything, and the same is true in sports. Like competing at a high level was the standard. I mean, I fortunately got to be pretty good, which was great. But independent of my skill or my ability, it was just how we played. And I learned just to play hard. You just play hard. You go all in. And my dad always said, "Go big or go home. Go big or go home." And I think that's kind of a life idea, though, right? I mean, if we're gonna go after something, why not go all in? And when I came out of that coma, as I mentioned, by the grace of God, I survived. I was just gonna go all in on my recovery. My goal was to make the greatest recovery from a level 7 traumatic brain injury that's ever been made by anyone ever. I just trying to be the best that I could be. And I obviously the challenges were what they were. My circumstances were difficult. I'm so blessed to have the upbringing that I did, but the obvious challenges I faced with the plane crashes and then the loss I experienced in the personal trauma, physically and emotionally. But I was determined to make the greatest comeback that I could possibly make from that.
Austin, we're going to talk more about basketball in a little bit, but how did basketball play a role in you coping with your loss? Something that you loved. How did that play a role in coping?
So my dad and I had always been super close my whole life. And, but after that first plane crash that took the life of my mom, sister, and brother, tragically, basketball was, I don't want to say it was an escape, because there's no escaping that pain or that grief. Right. But it was something my dad and I both loved, and it was my passion. So it became my dad's passion. And he was a good basketball player in high school. He was like, first team All-State, really good player in Michigan back in the 80s. And we loved it. We went to father-son basketball camp together every year growing up, and we made some great memories that way. And it was just such a blessing to have the dad that I did for the time that I did for the first 16 years of my life. Obviously I miss him every day, but the fact that my dad, he was so present in my life, he was so involved, never overstepped, never pushed me harder than I wanted to be pushed. He let me push myself, but he was so involved and just so present. And I think, what's the saying? They say love is spelled Time, time, right? He was always there, always supporting me. And the basketball, just that bond we shared over that. I mean, we would play basketball one-on-one against each other at night in the driveway. He was a good player back in the day. And as he got older, and he was in his 40s, couldn't do what he could do when he was 20. But we would talk trash and just had so much fun. And my dad, he was almost like a brother to me. Obviously, he was my dad, but I think our relationship was kind of a combination of father, son, and brother at the same time. So,
well, speaking of role models, I heard Coach Beeline say one time that when they were looking at giving you the scholarship, that you were one of the best. He actually said you were one of the best sophomore basketball players in the country at the time, and they promised you a scholarship. You got that scholarship, I understand, before the second plane crash. Could you tell us a little bit about the scholarship, and then follow that up with the role that you feel Coach Beeline played in your road to recovery?
Yeah, that scholarship offer, I was so blessed to receive that. And more importantly, the fact that Coach Beeline followed through on his commitment to me despite the drastic change in circumstance. So before the second plane accident, I was playing at a pretty high level. Whether or not Coach Beeline said I'm one of the best sophomores in the country, that's beside the point. I was decent. I was okay. I had to get a lot better to be good at Michigan, but I was pretty good. And so Coach offered me, and then we committed to each other. Then 9 days later, the second plane crash happened, as I said a few minutes ago. And when I came out of the coma, I couldn't play. Basketball was not on the radar. I was just trying to relearn how to live life again, right? But Coach came to visit me in the hospital when I was in a wheelchair and I couldn't walk. And there was no telling that I was ever going to walk again. No one knew. But Coach said, Austin, I can't wait to have you on my team someday. Whenever I able to get to Michigan, I can't wait to coach you. I was in a wheelchair. He didn't know I was ever going to be able to walk again, right? And so coach's follow through to me didn't depend on the circumstance. His commitment was a commitment. He made a commitment, so he followed through. He even said to me, Austin, when we make commitments at Michigan, we follow through. It's what we do. And I think about that like from an organizational, cultural perspective, right? If we can all do that, if we can all have our follow through on everything we say we're going to do all the time, have it be a no-brainer. Maybe doing that once or twice is not that big of a deal, but over the long term, it's going to help us win, right? And yeah, just the fact that he followed through, not only the fact of the matter that he followed through, but the way he followed through, the way he included me in the program, gave me a role, let me know my role was important, never made me feel like I didn't deserve it, or never made me feel like I was, an inconvenience to him or anything. And just the way that he did it. And so if a lot of people make commitments every day, I would argue in the financial services space, every person makes a commitment to a client, to a coworker of some kind every day. And I'm not in the financial services space, so I don't know that I'm qualified to make this statement, but I don't know that every commitment that's made is followed through on, especially when there's a change in circumstance. So if making a commitment's a common thing, a lot of people do it. But if following through on that commitment, despite a drastic change in circumstance, is an uncommon thing. I believe following through on a commitment when there's a change in circumstance is doing a common thing in an uncommon way. It's doing a common thing in an uncommon way. And the result of doing the common things in an uncommon way consistently is we're going to leave people in places a little better than they found them. And Coach Beeline definitely left me better than he found me. I mean, if you think about the impact he had on my life, obviously I got a great education, but I met my wife, the girl of my dreams. So if you think about it from that standpoint, Coach Beeline's follow through didn't only impact my life, it impacted someday our kids' life and someday our grandkids' life, right? So I mean, generations of my family is impacted by Coach's follow through on his commitment to me, despite the change in circumstance.
Yes, Austin, thank you for that. And you developed the GRIT framework based on your life experience that we've been discussing today. Can you share with the audience what the GRIT framework is, what the letters stand for, and then how can we use GRIT to help us achieve any goals that we set?
Well, I think it's going to take some grit to overcome any obstacle, to achieve any goal, but especially to overcome any obstacle. So I believe GRIT's 4 letters. There's 4 key components to it. First and foremost, I believe grit is driven by working for a greater purpose. I think we all need to work for something bigger than ourselves, because if we're working just for ourselves, any one of us on the call today, I think it's pretty likely that life's going to present us with adversity, opposition, challenge, trial, tribulation, what have you, that'll cause us to give up or give in because we don't have a driving force for why we do what we do. Whatever that driving force is different for everybody on the call. But I believe having that greater purpose, that driving force, will enable us to do what it takes to thrive in the midst of any circumstance. For me on my road to recovery, I felt that how I responded to the adversity that I was facing was a direct reflection of my family in heaven. And how could I not give everything I had to my recovery when I felt that way, right? If we have that, if we're working just for ourselves, things are going to get tough. And I think it'd be nice if I overcame this, but I'm working this for me, so it's not that big of a deal. But if I'm working for my family, my team, the organization, if I'm right, like that'll drive us to do what it takes to overcome and thrive in the midst of it. So when you have the greater purpose, that'll drive the 4 key components of grit. So the G is the growth mindset, which means adversity is opportunity. I believe we can grow from anything we experience in life. I firmly believe that. It's probably not going to be the event that'll be the source of growth. I, of course, didn't grow from being in 2 plane crashes, tragically losing my family, and almost being killed myself in the second one. I didn't grow from that. But I do believe I grew from how I was forced to respond, how I was forced to find a way. Because if winning in life, when I was 16, if winning would be going to Michigan, getting a great education, having a great career, maybe having a chance to play after college. Maybe if that was how you could define winning for me personally, I was forced to win in a different way. I could win by being a great teammate, by serving my teammates, by doing what I could to help the we succeed. rather than focusing on the me, right? Not that anybody should ever focus on the me, but I just think having that growth mindset, learning how to win in a different way is never a bad thing, especially not, challenging market conditions. I don't want to say it's easy to win when the market's good, but if we have that growth mindset, when things get tough, we'll still find ways to win. And by finding ways to win despite the challenging circumstances, that'll be advantageous to us in the future. So the R is the decision to be resilient. If we make the decision to be resilient, we focus on the things that we control. Things like our attitude, our work ethic, our commitment, how we go about our business every day. If I had this goal of getting to Michigan, but I just came out of a coma, I can't walk, I'm gonna have to make the decision to be resilient. I'm gonna have to focus on the things that I control, because my circumstances are what they are. The circumstances already happened, and it's reasonable for people to dwell on circumstances a little bit. But if we want to overcome our circumstances, if we want to thrive in the midst of them, I believe we need to focus on our response to the circumstances, focus on what we're going to do about it. And what we got to also acknowledge the fact is that making the decision to be resilient is an incredible opportunity to lead other people. You wouldn't think that a kid coming out of a coma is in a leadership position. Maybe I wasn't. Maybe that's, arrogant of me to say, but how could I expect other people to overcome the adversity they're facing in their life if I wasn't willing to overcome my own? Right? So we can all lead by example every day, and you never know the impact one example can make on someone, and just how that could really change their life by providing a little perspective and letting them know that, hey, you know what you're going through is tough right now, but if you work at it hard enough for long enough, you'll get through it. The I is the decision to have integrity. Of course, we all know that integrity is about being honest, doing the right thing, and no one is looking. Of course, that's true. I'm sure you all have, integrity is part of the cultural framework of your organizations, and of course it's doing our business the right way. Of course, that's integrity. But in addition, I believe integrity is about following through on our commitments despite a change in circumstances. Or should I say, integrity is following through on our commitments, especially when there's a change in circumstance. You look at what Coach Beeline did for me, right? He offered me a scholarship when I was playing at a pretty high level on June 15th, 2011. And I was tragically involved in that second plane crash 9 days later, and I was almost killed. And I couldn't play when I came out of the coma. Basketball was never on the radar. But Coach Beeline's follow through to me didn't waver, even though the circumstances drastically changed. He made a commitment, so he's going to follow through. It's a no-brainer, he said. It's just what we do. And I think about that from an organizational, cultural perspective, right? As I mentioned a few minutes ago, our follow through should be a no-brainer because it's very much within our control. Coach Beeline said, Austin, as long as you were here, as long as you survived and I was still alive, my follow through was a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer. So if making a commitment is a common thing, a lot of people do it. But if the follow through when there's a change in circumstance is uncommon, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, I believe the follow through that Coach Beeline did for me, because he did a common thing in an uncommon way. Lastly, the team first mentality. I think we should always think about the team first. We should train ourselves to think we before me. We should remember that every person on every team has a role, and that role is very important. Otherwise, that person probably wouldn't be on the team. So when I committed to play at Michigan on June 15th, 2011, my hope was to be a great player, score, rebound, play defense, help the team win championships on the court, right? Against Michigan State, Ohio State, Purdue, UCLA, Villanova. But the second plane crash took away a lot of my ability, and I couldn't play when I finally got to Michigan after being in the coma and after surviving the second plane accident. But if what I could do to serve my teammates, if what I could do to add value to the Michigan basketball family, the Michigan basketball organization, if what I could do was shag balls in practice, unload lugs on road trips, rebound and shoot around before games, and bring a positive attitude to the gym every day, if that's what I could do, it's what I could do. I felt that I owe it to my teammates and to the organization to make the effort to be the best that I could be. I have many teammates in the NBA now. Like, they're really good players. A lot of them are starting in the NBA. So they're some of the best players in the world. Really happy for them. I scored 1 point in 4 years. I'm the all-time lowest scoring full scholarship athlete in Michigan basketball history. I scored 1 point in 4 years. But as I mentioned, if what I could do is be positive every day, bring energy to the gym every day, encourage my teammates, and shag balls in practice, help with drills, if that's what I could do, is what I could do. And Coach John Wooden said, success is peace of mind attained only from knowing you've made the effort to become the best of which you were capable of becoming. I wasn't capable of being an NBA level player, right? but I was capable of being a great teammate. And I was determined to be the best teammate that I could be and be the best that I could be at my role. So I think if we have some grit, it's going to help us overcome any obstacle we face. If we're driven by a greater purpose, if we have the growth mindset, if we decide to be resilient, if we have integrity, always follow through what we commit to. And lastly, if you think about the team first, I believe we're going to win. So,
Austin, you mentioned the G stands for growth mindset. The opposite of that may be a fixed mindset, which often is characterized by fear and worry. What is your view of fear and worry?
well, I think, everybody has different fears. And, for me, I don't want to say I don't fear anything, but, my experiences have kind of given me a unique perspective. And yeah, I don't really have many fears. I mean, it's just, what's the worst that can happen? And hey, if not to make light of the situation, but if God forbid something happens, I'll lose my life. And hey, you know what? It's my time to go. If I'm still here after what I've been through, it's my time to go. But yeah, I just think that I choose to focus on the opportunity, because fear to me is what stands in the way of an opportunity, right? Or of us achieving a goal. Like the fear of the opposition. Like if I had this goal of getting to Michigan, but I'm in a coma, right? Or coming out of a coma. I could pay more attention to my circumstances, and man, I don't think I'm probably not going to make it to Michigan, or I can just be laser focused on my goal and find a way. I think that's what we got to do a lot of the time. Just find a way to get there. So
let's put it in basketball terms. The second half of the game, your team's down at the half. What are you going to say to the team? What are you going to say if they fear we can't do it, we can't come back? What are you going to say to the team?
There's going to be some team that's going to come back from a 10-point deficit or a 20-point deficit. There's going to be some team that's going to do that eventually. Why not us? Why not us, right?
I like it.
I just think that, yeah, like I said, the fear is, we might not come back, or you could say, okay, well, it's a 20, we got a 20 point deficit. Just focus on what you got to do to overcome that, rather than dwelling on the fact that they're ahead 20 points. Focus on the fact that we're going to find a way to win.
Yeah, I like it. I'd play with you. Okay, let's ask a lighthearted question here. John Maxwell's law of magnetism states that who you are affects who you attract. Let's get personal for just a moment and tell us a little bit about Abby and what attracted you guys to each other.
Yeah, well, she's amazing. She's amazing. The girl of my dreams, and I don't know if anybody on the call can relate to this. I'm sure most married men on the call can. I completely outkicked my coverage. I might have redefined the term, actually. I mean, I would compare it to, like a lower school basketball player when you're 6 or 7 years old playing in the NBA. That's the level. I mean, I skipped middle school, I skipped high school, I skipped college. I just went straight to the top. So, but yeah, she's amazing. I'm so blessed to have met her. And it's actually an amazing story though. So she played volleyball in Michigan. And so her dad is very into recruiting, Michigan basketball recruiting. And when I committed on June 15th, her dad showed her my picture and showed her a little bit of my highlight, like the highlight tape that they made for me and whatever. And said, we just got this good player from Fort Wayne, Indiana. I think he's going to be a really, really good player and help us win. And then 9 days later, her dad went down to my wife. Her bedroom is in the basement at her home where she grew up. And her dad went down to her bedroom and said, "Hey, Abby, do you remember the guy I showed you last week who committed to play at Michigan?" And he said, well, he and his family were just in a plane crash. He might not make it. We just need to pray for him and his family. And as crazy as it would have it, things would come full circle. We met, and hit it off right away. And yeah, I'm just so blessed to be married to her, and she's the girl of my dreams, I can't believe that life is this good. After everything that happened, and it didn't look good for him. And I was coming out of a coma. Nobody knew if I didn't know if I'd be able to go to college. Didn't know if I would ever be able to walk or or live life on normal terms. And yeah, so we're blessed. We are blessed and highly favored. Blessed and highly favored.
Austin, I can't help but think of another tremendous story, Rudy at Notre Dame. When I think of your story, do you see any similarity in your college sports careers, or maybe what are your thoughts on Rudy?
Yeah, well, yeah, obviously Rudy's got a great story. The Michigan Notre Dame rivalry is a friendly rivalry. I have a lot of friends that went to Notre Dame, actually. Many of them played football. Jalen Smith, who plays for the Cowboys now, is a friend of mine. We grew up playing basketball together. He's an amazing player. Obviously, a Pro Bowl level linebacker for the Cowboys, so really good. And but yeah, Rudy's got a great story. He was underdog, right? An underdog, and I think people like the underdog story. And while Rudy and I's stories are very different, I guess they're similar in the fact that we're both underdogs. We both had the odds were in our favor, so to speak, obviously for different challenges. Rudy's challenges, my challenges are obviously very different, but we both kind of came from behind, so to speak. We didn't have it, and not that anybody has a guarantee they're going to have a great career at Michigan or Notre Dame, but yeah, we just had to, be the best that we could be. And I think I obviously don't know Rudy, never met him, but it sounds like Rudy and I share the belief of in Coach John Wooden's definition, which said success is peace of mind, which comes only from knowing you made the effort to become the best of which you were capable of becoming. I think Rudy made the effort to become the best of which he was capable of becoming, and I tried to do the same. So,
we hear so much about being proactive, and we're taught in leadership to be proactive, and how we should spend our time in our circle of influence. How have you used your positive energy and your story of overcoming this tragedy to help other people? Can you share some of your thoughts about how you've used your energy and your story to help people in your circle of influence, people that you touch their lives daily, or even maybe on maybe through an engagement, which could happen just in maybe speaking to a group like ours today?
Yeah, well, I think, I've had a lot of amazing people in my life, from my family, my friends, the city of Fort Wayne, where I'm from. People really wrapped their arms around me to support me and my family as we went through both tragedies, but especially the second one when I was, the last remaining member of my immediate family. But yeah, it's just been incredible, and you never know the impact you can have on somebody just by being there for them and just supporting them. And obviously, people in my life have had different roles. Friends of mine. There's some. I mean, my best friends slept in the hospital when I was in a coma for 2 months to be there for me, right? Or you have people that are more distant, people that I've never met that say a prayer for me, because my story was kind of public, unfortunately or unfortunately. And I mean that impacts people too. The thoughts, prayers, well wishes, and yeah. But for me, the people in my life, the circle of influence, as you mentioned, the close people in my life, I just felt that, man, I can set. Yeah, maybe I can inspire people like farther from me that they maybe see my story and read it on ESPN or something. I mean, oh, what a great story! It makes you feel good. But also the people in my life, they were going through the challenges too, because I was the only one who was directly impacted by the loss, right? I was the only one who survived the plane crashes tragically. But everybody in my life was affected in different ways. My grandparents lost children, grandchildren. My parents' friends lost my parents as friends. Like everybody lost something. And so I just felt that, man, if I can respond to this and decide to be resilient, I think I'll inspire other people in my life to do the same. As I mentioned before, we don't know what, just setting an example, that's so impactful. It can be so impactful. It's obviously not going to impact everybody the same way, but I mean, like I mentioned, how could I expect other people in my life to be resilient and overcome and bounce back from that devastating loss if I wasn't willing to do it myself? So yeah, it's just we never know the impact we can have on someone, and maybe it's just one interaction, a small 60-second conversation, the inspiration that can provide somebody, because everybody's going through a challenge in their life. Everybody on the call today is going through a challenging situation. I continue to face challenges. My wife faces challenges. Everybody I know is dealing with challenges. That's life. And if we can just be positive, encouraging, and behave in a way that can maybe inspire some people to, find a way to overcome their challenges, I think that's very important. So,
Well, Austin, as advisors to our clients, our clients are within our circle of influence, which leads me to the next question. What was your family's relationship with life insurance? How has life insurance, or even possibly lack of life insurance, affected your life today?
yeah, well, I think, the decision to get life insurance is the most selfish thing somebody can do, because you don't get life insurance for your benefit. But to me, my wife and I don't have kids yet, but and I know I will value providing for my family. I will value giving my family a great life. Not that resources mean you're going to give them a great life, but giving them flexibility, giving them freedom to, live life on their terms, live life on our terms, right? If I value that, if I value providing them providing for them, I think the decision to get life insurance is easy. If our values are clear, I believe decisions are easy. And so my dad was a doctor in Fort Wayne, Indiana, where I'm from, had his own private practice, pain management. He was an anesthesiologist who practiced pain management in Fort Wayne, where we're from. My dad and his partner, Dave Bozier, had a little clinic. And before the first plane crash in 2003, my dad actually didn't have life insurance. He didn't have life insurance because nobody thinks it's going to happen to them until it does, right? And my dad's brother is a financial advisor and had talked to him for a long time about getting life insurance. But as I mentioned, nobody thinks that they're going to need it until you do. But after that first plane crash, my dad made the decision to get life insurance and protect our family. And obviously it's under very tragic or unfortunate circumstances whenever a life insurance policy comes into effect. But I think the decision to get life insurance is a no-brainer. The peace of mind, because the big one can happen at any time. I mean, like for me and my family. So like for me personally, I just could play at Michigan. I was on the highest point of my life. Life was that was my lifelong goal, to go to Michigan. And I commit to Michigan. 9 days later, I'm in an accident that almost kills me and kills my dad and second mom. And so like I'm the only one left, and only one left in my biological. And yeah, I mean, life can happen at any time. And so I just think that making that decision to get insured, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. And obviously everybody has to make the decision for themselves. And maybe hearing me say that isn't that impactful, but I just think it really is a no-brainer. And just the way it can impact your family for generations to come, really.
Well, we appreciate that message, and it is a very important message. And so on behalf of all of our Naifa advisors here watching this today, we want to let you know that we do appreciate you making that point. Another lighthearted question: why did you choose Michigan?
Why not choose Michigan, right? Yeah, so Michigan's been in my family for years. It's been I grew up going to football games when I was young. We had season tickets to football games growing up, so we would go to several games a year. And my mom went to Michigan. My dad did research at Michigan before going to medical school at Wake Forest, and my grandpas both went to Michigan. My grandparents had season tickets from 1973, and they just gave them up a couple years ago. So they had season tickets for, the better part of 45 years. They'd go to games every year, and yeah, so it's Michigan. It's a tradition. It's amazing, and yeah, I just love everything about it. And but you know what? Even if a school was in my family, but it wasn't the right fit, it wasn't the right fit. And actually, my wife played volleyball at Michigan, as I mentioned, and she grew up when she was being recruited. She wanted to go somewhere else to make her own path, because like her family had been obsessed with Michigan. Her whole, it's like all they do was Michigan, was follow Michigan. They don't really follow any other schools except Michigan. So she kind of wanted to make her own way and go to somewhere else. She could have gone to USC, Stanford, Penn State, Florida, a lot of other great schools. And but then she's like, you know what? Every school I visited, I would compare it to Michigan. And so that's how I knew that Michigan was where I was supposed to be. And yeah, so we both ended up there. And yeah, it's just an amazing place. I can't say enough great things about the university and about the program that Coach Beeline has led there. And when he's obviously not there anymore, but Coach Howard is doing a great job. Best man for the job. Big shoes to fill with Coach Beeline. He's the best guy for the job, and just the character, the integrity. Yeah, so the core values of Michigan basketball when I was there: appreciation, diligence, passion, unity, and accountability. If we have passion for what we do, if we hold ourselves highly accountable, if we're united with our team, with our organization, and if we have integrity and we hold ourselves accountable, I mean, that's just a good way to live life. So, the lessons I learned at Michigan, not only did they apply to basketball, being a great teammate, being a great team, but they're lessons that are going to be with me for the rest of my life. So I'm just so blessed to have had the time at Michigan that I did, and so blessed to be around a guy like Coach Beeline. He's one of the best basketball. He was one of the best basketball coaches in the country when he was at Michigan, but he's a 10 times better man than a basketball coach. So.
Well, that's certainly saying a lot. And by the way, I did hear him say himself about you being one of the top sophomores. So I heard it directly from his mouth. Austin, the next question is a little bit personal, but not so much. Would you be willing to share with us, what is the source of your guidance as you move forward? What is the real source of your guidance as you move forward in life?
Yeah, great question. I believe that my family is still my dad and my family are still guiding me every day. And, my faith, God in heaven. And yeah, and I just want to honor God every day and honor my family and make them proud someday, because I do believe I'm going to see them again someday. Hopefully it's not for 70 years, and hopefully my wife and I die when we're 95 or 100 and have a lot of kids and grandkids and a great family. But yeah, I just want to honor my family every single day. And yeah, I think, as I mentioned a few minutes ago about the grit framework, being driven by a greater purpose, having a greater purpose is very important in life. But I think that purpose can change too, because on my road to recovery, my driving force was my family in heaven, and I wanted to honor them every single day. And now it's my wife, and it's also the opportunity to impact and inspire and empower as many people as I can to overcome the adversity they're facing by overcoming one person at a time. And I just want to, by the grace of God, I survived, both plane crashes but thinking I shouldn't be here. But I want to make my life worth something if I'm here. So I just say I feel very blessed, very fortunate to be in a position to, just make a living by serving others and inspiring people and adding value in that way. We all have different paths, different careers. But I'm not that this is any career advice. Not that I'm in a position. I'm 26 years old. I can't give career advice, but I just spoke for me. I just focus on adding value. And I feel like if I continue to add value to everybody, to every organization that I have the privilege to serve, have the privilege to work with, I feel like good things are going to happen. So yeah, I just feel very, very fortunate to have a amazing family, amazing wife, and look forward to having a great future, a great family of our own someday.
You know, I guess at this point, I would just ask you if there's anything else that you would like to share with us, maybe from the standpoint of if a group or organization or association wanted to hear your story, wanted to contact you, is that something that you're available in the future to be able to come, hopefully again very soon in person, to talk to groups and organizations? Are you accessible for that?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's nice that things are starting to open up again. After COVID. Hopefully, this Delta variant doesn't shut things down again. But yeah, I'm blessed to be in a position where I can serve a variety of organizations, many different companies in the financial services space, Northwestern Mutuals, Prudentials, Private Financials. Well, a lot of great companies, Bernstein Private Wealth Management, Edward Jones, John Hancock. So yeah, I've been fortunate to speak to a lot of great companies, and yeah, I would love to speak to any and all. We're going to do about about 90 presentations this year. My goal is 100, but so would love to speak to any firm, anyone on the call today who believes my presentation about grit and thriving in the midst of adversity, that any organization that my presentation would add value to, I'd be honored and very grateful for an opportunity to serve you all, if that would add value. Obviously, I know things are challenging right now as we kind of get back to in person. A lot of states are different. Some states more open than others, but or virtually. I'm always available to speak virtually as well. So if your team needs inspiration in the near term, would love to speak virtually. But maybe if it's something we do, first or second quarter of next year, would love to make a trip to serve anybody's team on the call who presentation, my story, and my message would add value to. So,
Austin, I grew up playing a game, and I still play it, called horse. You've played horse in basketball, HORSE.
yeah.
I think the way I'm going to remember my relationship with you today is, in the future, we're not going to play horse at our gym. We're going to play GRIT, and I'm going to use that opportunity to share your message with those that I play basketball. I love the sport. It's so competitive, but I think I'll do that. It will remind me of our conversation today. And at the same time, I can share your message of what grit stands for when I tell them, go back and start all over on the G. So,
yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, for sure. You know what? I think you might have to. I know you're still playing. You probably play more basketball than I do nowadays. So you might have to give me a few. You might have to take a few little head start. So.
Well, you're being very humble, but I do love the game. And hey, speaking of why we love the game of basketball, I know you're competitive. I'm competitive. We got a lot of folks listening today that I promise you are competitive. Raise your hands out there if you're competitive, right? But here's a good question. Who's more competitive, you or your wife?
I think we're both competitive. I think I'm more competitive. She's too nice of a girl, but when she played volleyball, she was not nice to the other team. She was not nice to the other team. So she's about 6'5", a middle blocker for Michigan. And I kind of growing up, I saw the high school girls play, kind of hitting the ball around, having a good time. But when I got to Michigan, I mean, those girls, the athleticism, it's crazy. And so, yeah, she was a great athlete, very competitive in that way. But, now we compete against each other. So we'll play one-on-one together, and, she'll try to beat me. I'll try to beat her. I'm not going to let her win, at least not easily. But yeah, she's amazing. But yeah, I think, hey, you know what? I remember I talk about this grit thing, right? I gotta talk about it. If I'm preaching it, so to speak, I gotta make sure I'm living it too. So whenever my wife beats me in something, or whenever I make a mistake in our marriage, I'm sure some of the husbands on the call can relate to this. I got to have the growth mindset. I got to look at that as an opportunity to, right, and get better. But then also, if we have a little miscommunication at times. So we were actually, funny story here. So we were celebrating our 3rd anniversary dinner a few months ago, in June 16th, a couple months back, and we were out to dinner. And my wife got a really good drink. It looked really good. Like it was like a fruity sangria, some kind of cocktail. It looked really good, really nice summertime drink. We were in northern Michigan. It was a beautiful night, 75 degrees and sunny. And I said, honey, can I try some? And she said, sure. So she passed it off to me, and I lost. There was I don't know if any husbands on the call can relate to this, but there was a miscommunication in the handoff. So as she was handing me the drink, the transition wasn't as smooth as it should have been, and I proceeded to dump the whole drink on her dress, her nice dress that she was wearing for that night. And this is, I think, post COVID, we hadn't really been out to a nice dinner in a long time. And then I dumped the whole drink on her dress, but she makes the decision to be resilient. She focuses on how she responds to it, right? So she's frustrated, but okay, it's okay. She gets a napkin, dabs her dress off, goes to the bathroom, gets cleaned up, and it's all good. So I think, right, being resilient applies to anything, not just business, not just sports, marriage, anything. And it's having that growth mindset at all times, deciding to be resilient, operating with integrity at all times, and always doing what we say we would do, and having that team first mentality, remembering that sometimes we just got to do what the team needs. I've learned. So, fortunately at Michigan, I was forced to take a back seat to a lot of my teammates, right? There was guys on the court who were scoring and rebounding and playing defense, right? Who were on Sports Center and stuff, right? It was really cool. I was in the back seat. I was doing the dirty work, shagging balls in practice, unloading luggage on road trips, right? Rebounding and shoot around. That was a good preparation for marriage, though, too, because I'm in the supporting cast, right? And we just got to do what the team needs. And I think if we think about that team first all the time, if we're always remembering that we have a role, we'll be willing to do whatever the team needs. But I do think it's important because we should compete for the we. We've all heard we before me, right? But I think it's very important to be internally driven to be the best that we can be too, because there is no I in team. There's no I in team. No, I will never tell you there is. But I do believe any team will be better if it is made up of individuals who are personally driven to be the best that they can be, right? Personally driven to be a success by Coach Wooden's standards, personally driven to be the best of which they're capable. So,
I've got one more question for you, and this is it's a Covey habit, and you'll be familiar with this, putting first things first. Tell us about your decision to focus on your college education, a decision you had to make after that first year in deciding where to stay on the court or to go and focus on your education and looking at your future and putting first things first. How difficult was that decision, first of all, and why did you end up making that decision to pursue the education first and foremost?
Yeah, well, every college athlete is a student athlete. You're a student first. You're an athlete second. But Michigan, you're at the gym in the season for 4 to 5 hours a day typically, and I just felt that and Coach Beyond and I both agreed that my time wasn't my time. The best use of my time was not at the gym. I couldn't really play. I couldn't help the team win on the court. I could help with drills. I could encourage my teammates, right? And that was important. But my time was better spent in the classroom, in the library, focusing on my education, because my time at Michigan was amazing, but it's 4 years of life. My education that I gained during that 4 years is going to be with me for the rest of my life, and it's going to impact my career, my family, right? And so I just making that decision to put first things first and remember what's really important. And I also, it was a way that I could honor my dad too, my whole family, but especially my dad, because he was a doctor and school was obviously very important to him. It was always important to me too. And he's, if I wasn't doing well in school, I wasn't playing basketball. Basketball was the first thing to go if I wasn't performing in the classroom. So yeah, I just felt that, it was a smart decision. It was a long-term play too. Basketball was great in the short term. And I had a great time in Michigan playing basketball. But yeah, focusing on that long-term goal to be successful long-term, focusing on my education was very, very important. And it was a pretty simple decision. So,
You know, Austin, not everyone has the story, the tragic story that you have. And so when we listen to you and look at you and hear your words, you have a credibility, an inherent credibility, because you're here doing what you're doing. Your story is real. To end, what would you say to, how important would you say character is, even for those of us that may not have a tragic story, that we've maybe shown our character in real life, but how important is character to all of us in realizing our dreams and our future?
yeah, I think, your character is so important. Your character is who you are when nobody's looking, nobody's watching. And I just believe that there's not a lot nowadays. There's a lot of people watching all the time, but the way a lot of the work we to achieve our goals is done behind the scenes with nobody watching. It's like to be a basketball player. It's work done, extra work at night or early in the morning when nobody else is in the gym except you, right? I'm sure there's work in the financial services space, staying late at the office when nobody's there. Nobody knows you're there except you and maybe your spouse, right? It's that having that character to do what it takes to succeed, do what it takes to win, when nobody's watching. And I think that like the fact of the matter is that whether other people know we put in the extra work or the long hours, that shouldn't really impact it. We should just do it because that's just what it takes. And if we sign up to be in this space, we sign up for a tough business. It's tough, right? It's going to be influenced by a variety of factors all the time. And having that character to bounce back and to do that work when nobody's watching, to do the dirty work, to do that harder right over the easier wrong. I'm reminded of the cadet prayer at West Point, which states, "Lord, help us choose the harder right over the easier wrong." Whatever you believe, choosing the harder right over the easier wrong is it's the right way to live life. And I think that'll help us achieve our goals over the long term.
Austin Hatch, thank you so much for your story, sharing your story, such a personal story with us. You've shared it all over the world. We thank you. And on behalf of Naifa, I want to say, God bless you, Abby, your future. May you travel paths that lead to every dream that you've ever dreamed. And we just thank you so much. And it's been my honor to get to know you during this, and we wish you the very, very best. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Jack. I really appreciate it. It's been an honor and a privilege. And I would like to get in the gym someday together. I'm not sure I can keep up with you, but maybe you'd be a good point guard. We'd have a good pick and roll, I think.
I look forward to it. Let's do it, baby.
No, but thank you. It's an honor and a privilege to serve you all today. I wish you and your families all the very best. And if there's ever anything else that I can do to serve or add value to any of your to Naifa or any of your individual teams, it'd be an honor and a privilege. So thanks again. I appreciate you very much.
You got it.